showing you guys today is how to lock a newer style CRV element diff. People call this the ramping style. Basically the style that has the balls and the springs on the inside of the diff, which you guys are going to see shortly. And I'm going to show you how to lock them using our locking sites on this table that we use to service diffs. 10 millimeter all the way around, all the same size bolts.
Well, the other one wasn't all the way around 10, right?
8.
8.
I mean, I meant to say 8.
Oh, these are 8 millimeter. 8
millimeters. This is live. You guys are getting a live, raw action, unfiltered, uncut. Got 2 underneath. Okay. On this one, you have to take the bigger nut out in the front, the diff nut, and we use a. What size is this?
It's right here.
13/8, but it's a little loose. Okay, put that aside. I just take this ring off, and there's a little plastic, and then there's also rubber, but we could just leave that for now in there. You see that shortly. So now I'm gonna crack it open on the side. Clean the table really fast. Okay, so all right, when you take it off, some of the balls are going to fall out and stuff like that, which is fine. You can just flip this upside down and just make sure there's no noise in there.
Bearing balls.
And that's some bearings, some of the balls. So the balls we don't need, put them aside. And this is also on top. These are a carrier that holds the balls. We don't need this upper carrier anymore. Throw that aside. So now this is what you see in here. You just see this. You see it's still locked together, and we have this plate. This plate, which also goes on top of this. This plate was like this on top with the balls. We don't need that. So we're gonna put this plate aside. You have this bearing over here. This stays here. This piece is like a style for the pump, to pump the pump, which we're not using the fluid anymore. So this can be tossed out. And now it comes to, this can go to the side for now. I just clean this mess a little. So at this point, you can push the center out. So that is all. There's a C-clip in here, so that's all clipped together. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. Wow, talk. And then this piece comes out. It has a little rubber O-ring, and the top portion, you can put that aside next to your plastic and your outer ring. So now this is all empty, completely empty case. We can put this aside for now. Now I get to this. So at this point, you take this C-clip out. You can just, it's not a super tight C-clip. You can like walk it. You can like walk it out. Okay, walk the C-clip out, put the C-clip aside. First metal ring, I'll separate these. First metal ring, aside. Friction disc, aside. Second metal ring, aside. This is curved. It's probably hard to see on camera, but that's curved. Put that aside, keep them all together. Now, you have this little tiny spacer. Also goes aside. And then you have your second ring, pop that out. This one has the this one has the spring, so
that's why
you can kind of push a little. Yeah, you see how it's sprung up. Next, second metal ring aside, and then this plate that used to carry the balls, but it's also it's also going to act as a spacer and a lock now, and it's not going to act the way it used to act previously. So here's another portion aside, spring aside. You can pull out this part, which is the part where we're actually going to lock and use our plates. So you can take all the guts out of here.
Just dump it.
All the guts with the frictions and the metals and all that, all this guts. This is all garbage. There's another one in here. See if I get it. This is the center disc. It's like a center, it's kind of like, I guess, like a spacer for the spring. We need to keep that aside too, because the spring rides on this in the center. So keep that aside. I just have to get this last disc out. The oil makes everything like suction cup together. It's kind of hard to get out sometimes. Sometimes I can't get these out and I have to flush them out with like a brake cleaner or something, because they're too suctioned. Yeah, the oil like suction cups in. Okay, I had to flush this one out. That was the last disc facing this way. I had to flush it out with brake cleaner, but that's out. So now the basket looks like this, completely empty, and you have your clutch locking plates. So now these I load a little bit differently than the last ones, because I can actually slide the center down perfectly fine. So after the basket's empty, you can wipe everything clean if you guys want, or you don't have to. If the oil's clean, it can stay clean. This is just demonstration purposes. We're not actually installing this diff in any car. We're literally just showing you guys how to do it. So if not gonna be like, I'm not cleaning it, I'm not, you know, doing all the nice neat stuff we usually do. I'm just doing it to demonstrate. Okay. And this goes down first in the center. Thin, we have the one thin plate, and then the rest are all thick plates that comes in the kit. Thin plate down first, and then you have to make sure the number one and the opening, the number one and the opening are all in the same spot, lined up. So just let them fall right in. Like that. Now we go take the center portion that locks basically the center shaft. If you guys know, this is what locks the center to the outside of the viscous. So this is actually rides on here, on the inside of here. So now it's going to lock the inside with the outside, and it's not going to be able to spin like basically like a clutch. So now we slide this thing in the center. Just like that. Make sure it's all the way flushed down. Spring goes down, and now this part, it's a little tricky. There's 4 pins, and then there's 4 pinholes right here. There's 4 spots for these to slide in. So there's four like, I guess, slots, and then 4 slots here for whatever you guys want to call it. So this slides down into here. You have to kind of find the sweet spot. Can take a minute sometimes. Sometimes it takes a minute. It's not the easiest thing in the world. So don't get frustrated.
You gotta slide and put that C-clip in there?
Yeah, you're basically gonna have to hold it down and then put the C-clip. It'd probably be better having like someone help you push the C-clip down at the same time. You wanna just hold it down with your thumbs. All right, once you find that spot, it's gonna slide down like this. You see the spring? So I'm gonna have Jit help me hold this down really fast, but I also have to slide this spring in at the same time. Hold it with one of your thumbs. Okay. This is a little difficult, this part. All right, push. You can push down now. So you just walk the spring in to the.
And boom.
That's it. And then this, you basically walk the spring down. It's probably kind of hard to do by yourself. And then give it like a little push to make sure that the spring bounced out like that. So that's a portion. It sits like this now. So now after it sits like this, you're gonna take this little piece, this little spacer, put it aside. You get the washer that's kind of
like,
it's kind of got like a concave. Yep. That goes down first, then metal, and a metal spacer, then the friction disc, and another metal spacer.
And all that's just hold it in.
So these aren't locking. These are using to basically act as a spacer to fill the diff in. Okay. The portion that locks is already complete down there. So this is just acting like a spacer basically. So that goes down, and this we keep this aside, and I'll explain to you guys in a second why we do this. So this initially was in there, but now we're keeping this aside. So this stays aside. After the other 3 pieces are in, 4 pieces including the concave, it's going to ride down perfectly flush where the clip goes. So you're going to put the clip in.
Just like that.
This one doesn't have a spring or anything, so it's a little easier to put in. Okay, so it clips in now. Now after the clips in, now we take this over here. So we take this little spacer first. I'm going to explain why we put this spacer on the outside of the clip. So this little tiny spacer goes on the outside of the clip, and then this goes on top. And the reasoning is for that is there's a bearing right here, and when we put this back into here,
it has to touch, right?
It has to touch, so that it doesn't physically hold anything into place. It's literally just acting like a spacer so that this piece doesn't rub against this piece. So now this is pushed up against the bearing perfectly and rides against the end perfectly, just like that. Here, make sure this washer is on here, and then we're gonna have the case slide back on. The case has little dowels, so you have to jiggle it into place until the dowels line up. And just for recording purposes, I'm only going to put 2 bolts in. But obviously there's 8 bolts. Don't over tighten them because they do break very easily. Like I said, all 8 of your bolts would be in, your silicone would be on, and you'd be at this point. And at this point, you would take the portion that connects the drive shaft, line up the grooves, and jiggle that on. And you can just tap it on you can just tap it on like with a rubber hammer if you want. The bolt or the nut will actually pull it in fine. And then you have to take there's my rubber. There's a rubber washer. Okay, here it is. So at this point, you would take the rubber O-ring. The rubber O-ring would go in first. Then this white plastic, which is basically just pressing. It's kind of like a seal to press the rubber in. Then you take the metal, and the metal would go on. Then we take the nut, and the nut will hold everything together. And when you tighten the nut will pull in this portion, and you tighten the nut and it's going to pull it in.
That's it.
And that's it.
There you have it, guys. And there you have it, guys. That's how you lock a CRV or element diff, the ramp style. And it's always hit or miss with the years, but that's the ramp style. Thank you guys for watching.
You get behind the wheel, build it your Honda's built. It's military grade, but this is how to drill. It's American made, but we all will drive the world. I see them changing the game, that's when always will. Got them cars killing speeds and just sound like artillery. It's all will indeed, almost like a war machine. Like it's meant for the infantry, Air Force, Navy, Army, and Marines. Now they clock